Hello, man. Hello, Mgtows. Let's get a sound check here. That seems pretty good. Maybe a little light. Okay, there we go. Hello, Death by Kings. I think you were just in that, which I was about to talk about. I think I just seen you. Yeah. Today we're going to talk about proportional acquiescence. Proportional acquiescence. What is proportional? Did I freeze there? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Proportional acquiescence is what we see a lot with the blue pill guys. Let me get a little more light on myself. There we go. The camera doesn't work unless you get a little light on it, and light is all important to it. Sometimes the low light is nice, but sometimes it just won't pick up. So what we're talking about, let me see if my sound, there we go. My sound seems to be okay, but I'm still not real happy with it. I changed the things around from podcast setting to another setting. So if the sound's bad, just let me know and I'll click it somewhere else. So we're talking about today about proportional acquiescence. What is proportional acquiescence? Well, that's what we see a lot in the blue pill guys. We see a lot of their free will is not allowed in a situation morally. And what we're talking about is a moral. We're talking about naturalism, and we're talking about naturalism against skepticism. And what we're talking about in the case of men is we're talking about the case of the offender. We're all the pre-offender, or the presupposition to be a man under the rules and concepts that are concerned as of marriage and those and those things, excuse me, and those responses. And these things are deferred as responsibility and guilt. You're supposed to have a certain guilt as a male. You're supposed to have a certain responsibility as a male in those situations to have children, take care of her, do this, abide by all the moral rules. On one hand, we have the moral rules that are enforced by the moral government that have demands. These demands, sometimes indignation, disappropriation, condemnation, qualify you as moral if you feel these things. Together with the punishment that may be involved in back of the indignation, there'll be resentment, and there's going to be, I don't use the word resentment. This certain author used the word resentment. I don't like it. I use remorse because remorse means to bite again. It's something you're remorseful for, but you can go out and do again. That's what we get most often in these moral situations of marriage and stuff like that. They tend to try to exhibit a goodwill. You have to tend to try to exhibit a goodwill. And what I heard today was so we see these blue pill married guys come in here and they're trying to do their spiel on us. Why, I'm married, but I'm Mgtow, which is absurdity. And, there's a disproportionate amount of acquiescence in their voices. There's no strong sense of general purpose in their voices like most Mgtows have. There's a magnitude towards injury, a degree which they become these agents, which identifies them with the indifference to Mgtow. You can spot it, you can sense it, you can smell it. There's a disappropriation to this indignation towards Mgtow. It's sort of precisely correlated with moral demands, and these moral demands are you be stoic, and you when attacked, don't attack back, acquiesce in these situations, become subservient in your marriage, and your marriage will be great. And that's not really true. It is true that will help. It is true that in the suffrage, the Christian version of suffrage, that if you acquiesce and become this man of goodwill, and that's what's demanded, goodwill. We often talk about, they'll say goodwill, they'll say it entails these things, or there's these platitudes which go around with this modification of the moral that demand a greater general this greater general sense of cooperation, or or you'll be punished if you'll be punished by society if you do not involve in these things. In this sense, what they're saying, you will be spared the suffering. Okay, if you do these things, and that's what you will be spared the suffering. Rather than it on the other end of this, they're lying to you, because here comes the suffering and these things. And when we look at, I just laugh sometimes when I look at the blue pill guys. They got the kids and the wife, and they're coming in here and they're trying to explain. Trying to explain the Mgtow to you, their idea of they're going their own way, which is not Mgtow. That's Mgtow or something, Mgtwat. But they're a member of this moral community, is what they are, and this moral community is the married community. There's this moral community of following the queuing order of dating to like being engaged, to being married, to being kid. In Christianity, we see this a lot. It's played out as the sacraments, and there are certain sacraments that you take from a child up to marriage, and then marriage would be the last sacrament of suffering that you take. And that's what we see. Society reflects this too. We see this a lot in the Christian guys when they try. We are being so saturated by the Christian guys. Let me make sure I'm got on my page and make sure I'm okay. And hello, Cybermonk. Hello, Tree Hugger. Hello, SFM. Hello, all you guys. Stream. Yeah, I hope you all can hear me well. I didn't really check my sound, but I hope you can hear me all well. I come back to there. There's this moral community that we were talking about. We'll get back to the what really just inflames me about these moral guys, these they're not moral. They're just acquiescent. There's a proportional acquiescence in their theme of suffering. You have to proportionally acquiesce to these things. There's a preparedness, and in philosophy, we would call it a preparedness to acquiesce. In that there's a significant amount of suffering that you're going to have to take as the offender. We go back. We'll digress back as the offender in these things. There's a propensity for most men to do this thing, and then they convince themselves that, oh, it's blue pill of me, it's red pill of me to do this, because I've discovered some sort of I've discovered in my life some sort of thing that works. And I see this a lot with the young and the millennials and the guys that don't know what they're doing. It's a preparedness to acquiesce. They're already pre-prepared in any situation to cower, to acquiesce, to do that, to even when we talk about one BJ away, we're talking about the preparedness to acquiesce. They've already prepared in their minds to do this. There's a precise moral demand in society that I give you all the facts to how our Senate, how our laws, and how our things are arranged. And there's this, and in how they're arranged is this is the way things will go. You will be queued in this queuing order up to these sort of sacraments in life. And these sacraments are little stages that you have to go through. And then society will have a moral reaction to your moral reaction to that. And if you're an offender of these things, which all men, like I said, all men become the offenders in these. Men, offender, whatever you want to call it, the working class, the guy that's going to go out and do these things, they become the offender in this. And so the preparedness to acquiesce is the infliction of suffering on the offender, is what I'm saying. And the essential part of the punishment is it comes in with this, and we talked about this before, and I think there's a general overlap with the public recantations. You have to publicly recantate when she's talking to you. We see this all the time, and I heard this today, and my head about to explode, and I couldn't really put my finger on what he was saying. And that's the problem with a lot of philosophy. When you're trying to figure out what these people are trying to say, you have to sub-dissect it into these little parts. And then I realized this is a proportional acquiescence is what they're doing, a preparedness in their life to acquiesce to this punishment of and there's a readiness involved in that. There's this readiness that they're telling you got to be ready for this. And once you're ready, okay, and the way it was explained, that is in this marriage thing, she's going to yell, she's going to be this horrible person, but she's going to yell at you. And then he says, but you don't have to react. You don't have to react. In that statement comes the acquiesce and the bow down. If I could get down on my knees and beg, baby, you don't have to react to that, is what he said. And my head just went, boom. These things are are very little. They're least suggestive in the ways they're presented by society. And this readiness to acquiesce is an offering from yourself as a voluntary motion. And this thing, and it's the part that drives me mad. This is what you must volunteer for, this indignation. And when it boils over and there's remorseful contentment in these things, you simply acquiesce in the theme. The theme will be that, and suggest that if you do these things, and it's not simply a suggestion, because I've been in those situations. I've been in those things where you will acquiesce often, and you will acquiesce with infliction of injury if you don't. And that's what the society is telling you. Now that you've taken on all of our steps and our cues, there will be infliction of injury if you do not do this stoicism, this chivalry. And that's when it gets quite intense. And if you don't ever read about these things, and if you don't ever take the philosophy of free will is what we're talking about here. Free will in your relationships is what men don't have. You don't have a philosophy of free will until we get here in the Mgtow. Let me go back to and say hello to Silent Sage. Hello SFM, hello Silent Sage, hello Cybermonk and everything. What we're talking about in here is the philosophy of free will. That's what you get. That's what Mgtow gives us. And I say this philosophy of free will. When I give my analogy, when my wife left me that day, I still remember it was heartbreaking. It was painful. And she says, it's none of my business what she does with her body as of this moment, which she said when we were involved with this. And I was already proportionally ready to acquiesce. And that, as the simp I was already to acquiesce, to make the family work, to do this. I was the guy that was doing the suffering, and I was so used to doing the suffering. When she said that, it was like this bomb went off in my head. It's none of my business anymore what she does with her body, and if she shares that with her world. And that's a real feminist act. She was going through her feminist period. Them feminist periods aren't 3 days. Them feminist periods last years. And then she said, but I thought, what in that was the genius of it. This is how I should have always been. In the rule should have always been where these things aren't asked of me. Don't ask me what I do with my morality. Don't ask me what I do with my body. Don't ask me to be that moralistic example of what society wants me to be. And all of that, that's the big lie when it comes exploding in your face, and they go, ha, got you, ass. And I go, yeah, I fell for that. I did. I so fell for it. I was like this. I don't know how to explain it. I was like, yeah, you got me. I believed in all that stuff. And then they go, well, you know what you could do? You can take that pathetic simp ass of yours, go out there and go try it again. And I was like, oh, no, 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 I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to try that again. I'm a fast learner. I mean, I read a paragraph and I get it. And this paragraph of my life that I had read at that point, or it was read to me, or it was a doctrine that was pointed to me, that I was insisted on. You said that, and the government agrees with this. And when they took my kids away from me, they agreed with this whole doctrine. And I thought, from this moment on in my life, there's a freedom. And that freedom was the same thing that she had, that she said she had the right to. And I believe in equality. I believe in equality. I'm one of these. But what I see is all that garbage before me, all that, and that proportional acquiescence to everything. Oh, yeah, honey, you're right, honey. This is so great. I'm going to go to work in that steel mill, and it's going to be it's going to be no less than 114 degrees in there for 12 hours a day. And I'm going to go do this, and I'm going to suffer through this. And I did that for years and years and years with ideas of it will be greater later. or this thing was just going to work out and she was going to be everything. And it's always like that in life for you. Life's linear. You were a kid and you were in kindergarten. They said, oh, there's first grade. Can't wait to get there, huh? And then first grade, there was like, well, there's going to be middle school. And then you couldn't wait to get there. And then oh man, soon you're going to be a teenager at that 12-year-old, but you get to go with the junior hires. And then you get up to junior high and you realize all those 14-year-old girls are about a foot bigger than you. And it's fucking terrifying. And then, but soon, Joe, soon you will be that high schooler. And then you can move on in life. And then from that high school, you were this college, and you got it to work. And then you got it to the marriage. And then it leads up to death eventually. So there's always this linear process that goes on. And you just want to wipe that away. And at any moment, you as a person could have demanded your freedom. We see this from men all the time. You could have Mgtow it at any moment during that thing. But no one ever told you about it. Yeah, me neither. That was the problem. Nobody told me I could have absconded from this thing. There was no more acquiescence that had to be. There was no preparedness. And in that preparedness, that there will be theory. There will be doctrine that's daily put on you by your teachers, by your elders. There's a preparedness in this acquiescence, in this philosophy that they use. It's hush hush. We will not break these things down and talk about them and how they work in society, but it's there and we will not talk about it. And they present it in these immoral ways, and that's what I was seeing with the blue pill guys that come in. And I often, that's one of the things that I can always tell when a guy is married in here, and I can always tell when he's not doing Mgtow for these good purposes, because I was that guy. I know that guy very well. I can spot that guy. But one of the things that I always see is this: they're always on the edge of verge of acquiescing. Even in their podcast, we can't say this, we can't do this, and it's always a good idea to in Mgtow, and YouTube plays into it with the censorship and all that. Oh, it's a good idea to censor yourself. You're not allowed to say that. Wink, wink, nod, nod to the moral community. And this moral community is the 99% of Congress that are married. That's what I'm telling you. You have no right to vote even. Why even vote if 46% of us are single, but we have no decisions in this moral community? Boy, did I fuck that one up. My cigarette. I didn't make it up to the store today, so I was rolling my own. I slept in today. That's one of those things that I would have never did. I was like, man, I got such a bad night's sleep. And then I was just like, screw it. I'm just going to sleep until noon. I woke up at the crack of noon, and Dougie woke up at the crack of noon with me, and he's outside now. But them were one of the things that I could have never got away. There would have been some argument. Aren't you going to work? Aren't you doing this? Why are you not doing this? And I would have had to acquiesce to that demands. I remember rolling up and work late a few times, only because I didn't call in, because she was like, no, 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 no. No, you can't do that. But with the blue pill guys, it comes along in these proportional packages of acquiescence that we have to be leery of. And that's what I'm trying to tell you guys. There's proportional packages of acquiescence, which you have to be leery of. And when the blue pill guys, the married guys, come around, you can spot those little proportional packages in what I observed today, or what you're going to observe. Sooner or later, one of these mind bombs are just going to blow your head up, and you're going to go, there it is. There's that proportional package of acquiescence. Oh, guys, just practice a little stoicism, and just you don't have to. What they're going to say is, you don't have to react to that girl. She's being an awful person, but you don't have to react to that. And that's what they desire. And that's what the MRA was telling us back in the first days of Mgtow. Guys, you guys, we got these girls at home and we're not really in it for men. And we've been losing for so long here. It's almost pathetic. That's what they were saying. And, but man, we proportionally acquiesce to the females in any degree that they want. In any degree that they want. And that's what we see play out in society. That's most of our arguments. If you boil them down, that's most of the arguments. But I think in here, man, a lot of the guys come through the mill at the end of this, and they're the most hardened guys too, because they seen it just like I seen it. They seen it in that way where that was such a lie. And she goes, yeah, it was just a lie. I made that all up, and the government made that all up to get you to do something, and getting you to go to work every day, and getting you to not strive for more for yourself, or to be a businessman, to just go to school and learn these maintenance things that you like, that those silly maintenance things that you guys like to do. You just go do that, Joe. Those silly things, and you guys build the buildings for us, and you do that. And then it was a lie at the end. You, oh, you sucker, you fell for it. And I was like, oh, you so got me. And you did. They did. It was quite a shock I know that, and then I think about all those little proportional things where, oh yeah, you're right, I'll do this, because there's some Christian suffering involved. There's always some religious, whatever degree or religion or thing that binds your family, that moral code, and it could be a civil moral code. Now, guys, just because you're not religious doesn't mean the civil moral code is not based on the religion. It is all based on the religion. So even in that civil moral code of this made up kangaroo court called family courts, that's all garbage. You could throw that out. I would like to burn those places down. I would like to go all John Brown on those things. But because I see the absurdity in it. I see the absurdity in that, and when I see him talk, and I look at how this thing has crept into our halls of Congress, and we often ask why doesn't this thing work? Why can't we get any of these laws changed? And I gave you the simple answer, because 99% of those people are married, more than 99%, probably 99.2 of them, I think it would come out to be. They're all married, and some of them are married to each other. They've acquiesced, they've recanted, and they said, yes, this is the general concept of the land, and if you don't believe it, we'll punish you. And that's what they're saying with this, that we will punish you proportionally to your crimes as being male. If you think about that freedom thing, in America, imagine that. If you think about that freedom thing, there would be hell to pay. there will be hell to pay. We have systems and organizations, thugs, and they will enforce that, and it will not be free will on your behalf. But you can, at a certain point, without the farther you go down these queuing orders that they have set up, the more you will be punished and asked for that. Some men get off with a public recantation of how I love feminism. Feminism is great. Yeah. And you can see them almost click. Yeah, I have to say this because and they're pulling the strings. I have to say this because they'll punish me. We wonder why these Antifa guys act like that. We wonder, you are all the same. Don't act like that. You guys were all the same. They will punish you if you don't go along with their themes, their general themes of moralistic societies. And that's what my topic for today is, because I was so enraged when I seen the proportional acquiescence of some of these guys. Now, when you go and you listen to some of these guys that are just kind of working their way into Mgtow, and that's where you'll see every mistake. You'll see every mistake that they make, and they're one BJ away, like, I would do that because the juice is worth the squeeze, is what he's saying. And then you go, no, it's just, it'll get you back in that order, and the queuing line is the queuing line, and it only goes to one place. But that's hard to explain to somebody without that's hard to explain in here to somebody without, like Dewey would say, without a past, with nothing to hinge on, with no experience. You can't tell a man, and that's what I see with a lot of these young men, and they hate us. They hate us older guys, man. Over in those millennial places of Mgtow, they won't even speak to you if you're over 30, 35, 40 years old. That's what I've been noticing too. They won't even acknowledge your existence. And I'm like, cool, this is so cool because I get to watch all you asses go through it. And then it's like one by one, I'll watch them drop out of Mgtow, and they're like, and to come back and try to explain how, I could be married and be a Mgtow. Yeah, that's because you're an ass and you never got it in the beginning. And it's not just something that's cool. The Slaughterhouse Terror. Slaughterhouse. What was that book by Varnicket? I briefed it and read a little bit of it. Slaughterhouse 7 or something like that. But I have to go over that whole book because there's some great stuff inside of there. So that's what I was talking about, the proportional. How many times, even when in these things that we do here when I have guests, and over the years, I've noticed that I often have to proportionally acquiesce to somebody else's ideology. Generally, one of these new, when Nico was in and he was trying to explain that his version of Mgtow, which didn't work very well. Matter of fact, he had the Rollo Tomasi version of Mgtow, and I had to proportionally acquiesce. And it's the thing that gets me in trouble in here, because I don't. I'm from the time I told you the story, from the time I was a little child to now, my father would say, "Joe, he's such an insufferable little bastard. He is." I am that thing that I don't acquiesce to nothing. I'm a stump. But at points I get asked to do that. Nothing bothers me more, because I see, the world beat me down with that just a little at a time. Just, those death by 1,000 cuts that I talk about. We should say death by 1,000 cucks that I talk about. I just think that's funny. Yeah, death by 1,000 cucks. That's what we'll get in here. We'll get the Eli's and the Joe Buddies that are married, and the Eli that wants to be married, and the next guy, and then all of a sudden it's like, bring this guy around. He's a married Mgtow, and he's going to talk to us about these things. And then you go, no, 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 because there'll be those proportional little acquiesces that you're going to have to do during that, just to be what would you, to be social. Yeah, death by 1,000 life coaches, death by 1,000 cucks. I just love that. That's what I should have named this. That's what I should have named this podcast, "Death by 1,000 Cucks." but I won't. Maybe I'll put it in a low bar. And but that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the philosophy of free will. And the philosophy of free will, when we talk about the ideas that there is naturalism against skepticism, Mgtow is there the skepticism part of that. They're looking at these moral demands that are put on us, and we're thinking about them, and they're going, now this is, your free will is here, and these things come in three ways. How are they going to take that free will away from you? Well, they're gonna prepare you during a lifetime to acquiesce at any moment, and those proportional little things that you'll have to acquiesce to is what we're talking about here. Is what we this attitude towards offering, the altruistic attitude towards offering becomes it becomes what I talked about the other day, and it becomes extreme altruism. And at which point does it become suffering and punishment? The institutions of suffering and punishment that is known as marriage for men. That all stuff comes with a pre-acceptance, a presupposition of the offering to acquiescence. The infliction that you will have to go through, it will become an infliction. It will look like it is an affliction, because at a moment's notice there will be ridicule and injury, and there'll be just to test you. We call that them shit tests, those little shit tests. It's what is due to them to test you on these things. And then your readiness to acquiesce will be will be tested in the offerings you throw out. It's the indignation that will boil over, and that if you don't, and you'll see it, that indignation that'll boil over when you have no more F's to give about that thing, and you're not readiness. That readiness is not seen, and you're standing there and you're going, "Are you freaking crazy?" No. Then no becomes your word. It's like, no, I will not take those inflictions. I will not acquiesce. Oh, it's a savage country we live in, and these condemnations and punishments will be given out at a moment in society. And that's what we talk about. Like, my buddy's just a dick. And we hear these stories all the time. And that's what you're talking about when you talk about these things, the practices of condemnation and punishment that will be dealt to you as a Mgtow. And we see this, we hear this from all Mgtows. It's like, when I said no, and I was pessimistic about these things, when I explained the skepticism about their desired their terms and their social values and the utility that would be drained from me, when I said no to that, oh yes, there was a moral condemnation that came along with that. And you may have noticed that with a lot of your friends, and you had the shed friends, with the community, with the workplace, with even in here, you can feel that moral condemnation coming down upon you. Oh, you guys, and it used to be, I don't know, at some time they just stopped using that. You guys just don't want to pay your child support. It's like, no, because child support is a fucking crime. It's a slavery. You figure out a better way. Rather than putting men in slavery and bondage. And at a certain point, they stop with that. But there's still this response of guilt and condemnation, as in the form of justice that we're speaking of. Because we live in a just society. We have to accept that what their terms of just is for all, and all means you. Dougie's having a fit out there. Oh man, Dougie's having a fit out there, and he wants to come in. And I don't know how long I'm going to go on to there, but that was my my Saturday afternoon. Say hello to you guys, and just come around. I was tired and I was worn out, and I was sick from being out in the cold all week, but I'm better now. I got a night's sleep. That's great when you get a good night's sleep. And I think about a lot about a good night's sleep, what a good night's sleep is. And I often talk about the small chain peptides that your body releases when you dream. I don't really often talk about it. I refer to it and how to heal. But sleep is important, and that's the most healing you're going to do. And the reason you heal, because when you sleep, you dream. And when you dream, you release small chain peptides, and they route in your body the RNA that needs to happen. So a good night's sleep, if you haven't been sleeping and you're feeling down and you're feeling, man, my knees hurt. And at my age, my knees fucking really hurts. Boy, I'll tell you what, some days it's horrible. And especially around this time when it's cold and everything hurts and you just don't think, man, what is this life of pain? I've been acquiescing to society all my life, and it's been a life of pain. And then here comes some more, and I just think, man, I cannot take one more second of this. And if I sleep for 16 hours one day, damned, I deserve it. And that's when the healing will come. And there's scientific reasons for that too. If you're not dreaming, you better check yourself, because it tells you you may be sick. And if you're sick, you better start thinking about dreaming. So those brain things happen and these chemicals get released. We spend half our life releasing the chemicals of love hormones, trying to get those released. But the things that are really important to us, like simple sleep and small chain peptides that will bond with the salt, or will bond with what comes from the salt in your body, and form that ability for you to heal. And the magnesium is important and all that stuff, and to have a balanced diet of fruits and vegetables and a lot of meat. But if you should check in, and that's my suggestion for all you men, for around this time of the year when the sun's not out and I can't go get that vitamin D, maybe take some vitamin D. And I suggest melatonin. Melatonin is vitamin D, which helps you sleep, and that will increase your chances of healing. And this morning, immediately I feel that my knee I've just been limping, and because it was so tight and it felt so bad. And in one night's sleep, I wake up and it's like, oh, it's gone. Well, magic. Derp. It's like, no, you got a good night's sleep, Joe. Joe, you know that. But those are the things as men we negate, we disregard, we don't think about these things. And then when we come up ill or limping, we're like, I wonder how that happened. Because in this society, suffrage will be demanded of you, and that comes in the form of work most of the time. That's my socialistic cause, is my more Maoistic cause, is, hey, if I got to do this, we should all change the way those entitled class people at the city, why do they get to do the lighter than air jobs, and I have to do the agricultural and building jobs? Isn't that a lot like the Burgess? Yeah, it's a lot like the Burgess up there, and then I'm the proletariat, and I'm the guy that's got to acquiesce to them, to all their needs, so they can live that kind of lifestyle. But that's just the way our society is, and that's why I say I'm a Maoist, because I want them to work on the farm too. It's like, I believe in that. Just like Trump said. Trump's a Maoist. He said, you want to eat, you got to work. And I thought, I agree totally. I do. I so agree with that. And that means you have to work too, fat ass. Get off those McDonald's bags and get out there and throw a couple of bags of corn at the farm. but he won't. They understand Maoism when it's they understand this what I call a conservative socialism when it works for them and they don't have to work. but they don't understand it when it's democratic socialism. It's like, oh yeah, you guys are asses. What a bunch of hypocrisy there. Hypocrites. They'll understand the banking system as not being socialistic. Yeah, right. But they'll enjoy what I call conservative socialism. Conservatives. That's what we talk about on this channel. There's a lot of conservatism going on, and but I don't want to go on forever about these things. I mean, come in and be a Mgtow and kind of watch out, guys. Kind of watch out for that proportional acquiescence that's going to be demanded of you. If you get when you get your Mgtow wings, you can send away for Joe, and the leader will give you your Mgtow wings. I'll say, damn, there you go, you got them. One of the things you're going to have to watch out for is society in a lot of different ways proportionally making you acquiesce, and your ability to say no during those times, to say no, stop, go, I don't want you around here. This is what's going to shape and mold our society in the future. This is what's going to stop the socialism. This is what is going to stop the other brands of democratic socialism and the other brands of Republican socialism that are coming at us, or that conservative socialism that you're just supposed to accept. These are how we're going to stop it. And I don't care about which party comes at me. I believe they're all a bunch of tards. They're all a bunch of ass tards, and I hate them all when they come with that garbage. But that's my special brand of how I like to deal with them. And I'll tell you what, how I'd like to deal with them is a lot harsher than what most people would deal with them. I'm not a man that I don't acquiesce to nonviolence. Ref Trev is apparently going to do collabs with Universal, with Universal Thought. Oh yeah. When she shows up on here, you let me know. Oh man. Oh man, I thought you were my friend, Victor. Oh, oh, that's funny. That's funny. I wouldn't worry about me collabing with let's talk about that for a while. The whole purge thing, and it's so ridiculous because a mature Mgtow doesn't look at things like that. A mature Mgtow looks at things like, I can go up to the store and deal with Jill, the sandwich girl, and I have to collab with Jill, the sandwich girl, because I want a sandwich, and then I hand her the $5 and she hands me a sandwich, and I be nice about that, and I don't have to yell at her and call her a feminist, because if I yell at her and call her a feminist, you know what's going to happen? She's going to make me a for shit sandwich. Yeah, and then I'm not going to be able to go in there anymore, and that's my theory of casual cruelty. Casual cruelty will get you more casual cruelty in your life. And as soon as you guys figure that out in your life, you keep doing it, but you'll figure it out sooner or later. That casual cruelty will get you casual cruelty, and you can just be nice. But hey, that'll take most of you guys getting a little aged and realizing that if I wanted the chicken girl up at the chicken schlop to slip me an extra tender once in a while, I got to be nice to her. And most of these guys will learn that lesson in life. You have to live in society as society is, and that means as reality is. Yeah, yeah, that was a problem with some things. I didn't at a certain point. I decided to take this attitude, this non-peripherable attitude. I wasn't gonna keep arming the enemy, and so I was just not even gonna start paying attention to. I don't pay attention to my chat most of the time, and I don't pay attention to what people say, and I don't pay attention to what people demand of me. And that's the thing. Once you start involving, and that's why it says casual cruelty will involve demands from other people. Now we take a look at what I'm talking about here, the proportional acquiescence. When you start doing what other people want in here because MGTOWs, because there's this purge and everything, just because you're trying to just be a decent person, they'll demand casual cruelty out of you. Now that's a proportional acquiescence to their theme. And that's why this what I do here, the philosophical Mgtow, is so important because it makes us think about the things we do, where we have to come correct on our philosophy rather than all these new. This guy's been around for like 8 months, and he's like rearranging Mgtow to be anti-feminism. there's Listen, guys, there's a million anti-feminists out there that are doing a for shit job of changing anything. And anti-feminism and the MRA has been hand in hand for the last 50 years before this and has failed terribly. The only time that there was a change in this whole thing is when Mgtow came in and said, we don't care what you do anymore. And we don't do anything you want over there. We're just gonna remove ourselves. We're gonna abscond from this thing. And that's a word that they don't realize that MGTOWs do. Part of being a MGTOW is absconding, going galt. It's an idea. It's not running off into the woods and hiding. It's an idea of mentally absconding where you don't proportionally acquiesce to anything. And that's what's so important about having guys like me around here, because I understand these terms and conditions, and I understand what it is to be a MGTOW. If you're adequately expanding, I don't give a shit what they do, because they're not coming in my life, because it's not affecting me. The only person that is affected by the thoughts and by the by this whatever they call it that they need to purge, and that purge relies on the idea of a dragon, that dragon that you will fence at, and it's just a windmill. You're making windmills into dragons. And the idea of MGTOW is in yourself. The idea of absconding from them things, I put them away. I don't pay attention. I can be a nice guy all day long to anybody out there on the internet. They don't have to agree with me. But I'm not going to be casually cruel because some ass demands it. And that's when we have the proportional acquiescence to this casual cruelty, that you will become this anti-feminist group that got nothing done for 40 years. You're fighting against a windmill that doesn't exist. And that's the way I feel about that. And am I right? I am rarely wrong. You know why? Because I got a huge fucking IQ. But can that be understood by these new men? No, I think they have to go through things. I think experience, like I was talking about with Dewey and Wright and Pierce and those guys, they often talked about experience, and that's pragmaticism is built on experience. And until you get that experience, you have no place in MGTOW as any kind of leader or leading any sort of men, because you're going to lead them down the path of into wrong. And that's the way I feel about that. I'm just reading some of the comments. See, this is why I don't like to read the comments, because I can't read the comments and talk to you logically at the same time and keep it cogent. So one of my detractors came around and he wanted to do the same old. I'm not doing what they want me to do. A proportional it's just what I was talking about, the proportional acquiescing to this anti-feminist group that's come, and I've seen a million of them, and I've seen a million of them fail. And if you go to Marcus's video on why anti-feminism is feminism, and I'll put that in the low bar for everybody to go back and watch, and he'll explain logistically how it is the same. You'll realize why they lost for the last 40 years, why the MRA are asses, and why they all end up married, why they all end up doing exactly what they say not to do, why they're fighting. Why they're fighting with the laws is because they need to fight with the laws, because you can't get a divorce unless you're married. And they all convince themselves at a point through this anti-feminism garbage that they have found the Nawalt in their lives, that there is that special thing out there. And it's these proportional acquiescence that's going to get every one of those guys there. And that's what we're talking about today, proportional acquiescence. And when you go along with some jackass's silly themes that aren't even philosophically correct, oh yeah, can't wait to watch. I've been around forever, and I've been watching it forever. And I've watched it come and go a million times in my life. I know exactly how it's going to turn out. And I know exactly where it comes from. Every time we get a new group of new youngsters in, they all have these great ideas on how Mgtow should be. And lately, it's been quite bizarre to watch. But I remember being like there in my days too, so I just have to watch until they grow up. I got to stop watching the thing. So the topic today was blah, 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 proportional acquiescence. And that's what you will have to experience when you do these things, when you come around. That's what they will demand. That's what the moralistic people will demand of you. And it comes from that society of the married guys, and they will demand that one of those things that you're going to have to watch for in here. And if they get you to believe a little, they will get you to believe a lot, and that will come in so many forms. It's a demand of this, and it's a demand of that. It's a demand you be politically correct. It's a demand that it's a demand that you be on with this group, and usually it comes from the group. This demand. What is the demand that the group makes of you? That's what you should ask yourself. Does that demand come with a proportional amount of casual cruelty towards other human beings because they have ideological differences? And if it is, you're wrong. You're wrong. You should abscond from that immediately. Or you're going to end up back on the farm. And I think if you listen to enough Barbarossa, you'll realize that's exactly what he was saying too, although he did not get it at the end. And he is a fine example of not getting what he was saying, the philosophy of what he was saying. But hey, to each his own, I suppose. And And that's about it. That's about it for today. I'd like to say thanks for you guys showing up, and hello, Portuguese Mgtow. Hello, Tree Hugger. Hello, Riff Mangoes, and hello, Victor Frankenstein. Again, if you ever want to come out and discuss these things, we can discuss them. But in here, why I don't get no guests anymore is because I demand this too. So these guys that come around with these fake avatars, prepare if they want to discuss or have an argument, and I'm very good at argumentation. So but if they want to discuss, they have to come with a face, and but that's what keeps most men away. So thanks a lot to each person and every person that came around, but most of all, guys, and I'll say it every time, thanks a lot for being a Mgtow. Mgtow.